Give us a brief bio of your life.
I was born in Santa Clara. I got adopted. I was in a few foster homes and came to Monterey. Grew up here my whole life, went to Monterey High too. Graduated, had 3 kids, and have moved all over with my fiance.
I was born in Mendocino County. I lived in Minnesota for a little bit. I played music all throughout my high school career and some of my college, but I dropped out because I was a bad student. Now I'm just kind of living the life as a starving artist.
I was born and raised Bakersfield. I lived in a small town, Arvin. Went to college, dropped out because I couldn't learn Spanish real good, wanted to be a teacher. Got married, had 2 kids, divorced, remarried again, and ended up here in Monterey from Bakersfield.
I was born in Montgomery, Alabama. I was an Army brat. And then we came out here in '85. I went to MPC for about a couple years, started criminal justice, but I dropped out of that. I just became a caregiver. I just had odd jobs as like a package handler, worked for UPS.
Growing up in Salinas, California, I joined the local theater troops. I worked with my local Umoja program that I helped co-found. I helped co-found the Theater Arts and Cinema team. I'm a part of the Salinas Juneteenth Committee.
I was born here in Monterey. My dad is a dentist, so he took us on a lot of mission trips. So I've been around the world, being able to help people with free health care. I went to York for 1 year, and then I went to Boarding Academy, and then did college in Tennessee, and then went to a dental school in Southern California, and now I'm back home working as a dentist.
I was born in Ukiah in '84. I lived there until I was about 12 when I moved with my mom. Moved to Mount Shasta. I lived there until I was 17 when I went to Reno and got married and moved to San Bernardino. I've been dancing for the past 20 years. I just retired in August. I moved here about 10 years ago.
I, born and raised LA, moved around a lot because I was an ex-Army wife. We were in DC, Korea, Hawaii. Now we're here in Monterey.
I was born in Salinas. I graduated high school in 2002. I went off to college at Central Coast College. I received a certificate in medical assisting. I worked at Salinas Valley Memorial Hospital for a couple of years. I went on into customer service until I started working for MST as a dispatcher, and then got promoted to supervisor.
I was born and raised in Fort Worth, California. I was raised in Big Sur also. I grew up listening to a lot of really great musicians. I had a love for art. I renounced my 9-to-5 job to become an artist. If I'm lucky, I'll be able to be an artist the rest of my life. I'm a jade carver, I'm a painting artist. I do body painting, I do canvas painting, pretty much any form of mixed media art as well.
I was born into a crazy Catholic family in San Jose when I was about 7. My parents bought a house in Carmel where I went every weekend in summers. That's where I learned to ride in Pebble Beach. I did that for years in the Pony Club. Then I grew up and worked at the courthouse, and I was a clerk for a judge in the courtroom. Met my husband, who's a lawyer, raised our kids in Menlo Park. I got divorced, lived in Palo Alto, went through a series of relationships, ended up back in Carmel. I've worked in every area of service you could imagine. I'm just doing dog sitting and then intuitive guide reading.
I was born in Berkeley in the 60s, grew up in a house that my parents built in the Santa Cruz Mountains. They took me traveling to Mexico and all over California. I moved to Oaxaca, Mexico, traveled extensively in Central America, lived in France briefly, Italy briefly, moved to Venezuela and lived there a few years. I got a degree in filmmaking. I started a documentary film business, came back to the States, got a .com job, MBA in sustainability. Now I'm happily married and living in Nashville, Tennessee.
I was born in San Francisco to 2 immigrant parents that met on a blind date and married 2 weeks later. So I grew up basically in the Bay Area, Fremont, Milpitas. When I got married, I lived in San Jose, had 2 children. I had a career in beauty therapy. I went to Europe and studied there for facial, skincare, makeup, massage, nails, the whole thing. And I did that for some 28 years, and then at the grand old age of 50, decided that I wanted to change careers and became a model. Got to walk on New York Fashion Week and do all kinds of great modeling, print and glamour work. That segued into acting, then that segued into writing. So I'm an empty nester with 2 sons, and my husband and I live here in Monterey for about the past decade. The acting was really, I had pursued that for about 10 years and was doing well with it, had a manager and was going, and an agent going back and forth to Los Angeles. Discovered that I really had this knack to write and to do screenwriting. Very proud of the fact that my first pilot that went out went into some film festivals and actually won an award. I'm on my 2nd pilot now.
I was born in Meadville, Pennsylvania, but I grew up in Franklin, Pennsylvania. I was supposed to go to school for criminal justice. I wanted to be a homicide investigator, but I was unable to do that because my mother didn't agree with it. She didn't think I'd succeed. I ended up being a dental assistant. Then from that, I went into working in a radio station. So I sold radio advertisement. I ended up working into a restaurant. Then from there, I went to the culinary school in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was dealing with Wolfgang Puck and a couple other celebrity chefs. I placed students in their restaurant. Then I decided to retire at 27, got married in Vegas. 2 years later, I moved here, bye husband. He didn't want to move, I did. Divorced me via FedEx, and I traveled the whole entire United States selling equestrian wear. And then I ended up working in the dental field again. From that, I ended up managing a restaurant in Carmel. So then I was on the streets for 4 years in Monterey, in Santa Barbara, and then in LA. Some of my money came back because it was identity fraud. Came off the streets. That's when I decided to start other businesses, and that's when I became an inventor of something called Candle Delight. Then I started barbering school recently, and I did that for 2 months. But I decided to start Wharfside Gifts, or Gifts by the Bay, or Wharfside Karaoke. And then I just decided to do home inspector training like 2 days ago. That way I have future income once I can get the 80 hours in for training.